271 if you want to pre-enroll for it on Monday. And
2710 at the newfangled 4-digit.
oh yes, 272710. He's actually very active in the local school districts, particularly in the rural areas. He knows a lot about what goes on in town. He has children in the district as well, so he knows. He's got an inside scoop. So yeah, so Professor Sipple.
Great. Thank you very much. This is fun to be here. It's kind of an exciting opportunity to reach a new audience for me, and I know some people already know. But I wasn't expecting such a big group. This is fabulous that there's this many people interested in getting involved in Reach and getting out into the schools, out into the communities, out to the prisons, to the tutoring. And this is really nice that you gave up part of your Saturday to get going on this. So congratulations to you and the organizers. I was asked to speak about the achievement gap, and I said, well, I can do that. That's what we do. And I was thinking, how do I do that? How do I make it interesting? How do I make it engaging? Because there's some of you are new to this idea that there are these achievement gaps. Some of you have probably thought about this every day for the last 10 years and are very aware with firsthand knowledge of this. So I'm going to tell a couple stories. If you have any questions as I'm talking, telling stories, please jump in. One story is at the statewide level, and one story is at a community level, which is Ithaca. We'll not go unnamed, but it is Ithaca. First story, the statewide level. When I first came to Cornell, the state of New York, this was back in 1998, the state of New York had made some big decisions in 1996, so a couple years before I got here. And their decision was quite simple at first blush. When we first hear about it, quite a simple decision. The ramifications were incredibly complex, and we're still trying to figure this out, a decade plus later. And this decision the state of New York made in 1996, and then put a timeline to 1997, was that every single kid who graduates with a high school diploma in New York State should earn a college preparatory diploma, what we call a Regents diploma in New York State. How many from New York State? Any from other states? Okay. New York State has these things called Regents diplomas, which is a state-endorsed diploma. Different states do this in different ways. Is that if you meet the set of state requirements, you get a special sticker on your high school diploma. And for the better part of 100 years, this has taken place in New York State. Where some kids graduated from high school with a quote-unquote Regents diploma, and they were certified, so to speak, to go on to college. Meaning you had enough math, you had enough English, you had enough science, you had all the requirements that they require, which also includes these end-of-course exams. So if you want to think about this high-stakes testing thing being a new phenomenon, New York State's been engaged in these Regents examinations for 120 years. Okay, testing's not new. And these are these end-of-course examinations that those of you from New York State are all well-versed in. You would not have come to Cornell unless you took these exams and passed them and did quite well. And so you know what I'm talking about. And so you say, well, why is that a big deal? If you're going to graduate from high school in New York State, you're going to graduate with a Regents diploma. Well, in 1999, a year before this was supposed to be phased in 2000. So they made a decision in 96, set a timeline in 97, and then in 2000 began to phase this in. So if you're going to graduate from high school in 2000, and you want to earn a high school diploma, the only way to do it was you had to take and pass a certain set of courses and take and pass the English Regents exam, which is end of course exam you take in June, typically your junior year, although you could take it your senior year. You just have to pass it at some point in time. So again, the question is, why is this a big deal? What does this have to do with this group here and this conversation around the achievement gap? And what I want to say is that in 1999, 1 year before this took effect, okay, what is your guess as to the proportion of students in New York State who graduated with a Regents diploma? It had to be 100% starting in 2000. So you're going from something in 1999 to 100% in 2000, because there's some wiggle room with special education students and so forth that's being slowly squeezed out, and it's being, and I think 2013, there's not even a special diploma for even the most severely handicapped children. What's your guess? 70? 70%, good guess. What do you got? 50. Say your hand. Take it. Give me a number. We got 70, we got 50. Come on, what's your guess? 1 year before we had to have 100%, what was your guess as to the proportion of kids graduating from high school, meaning earning a high school diploma in New York State that was certified as a state-endorsed diploma, a Regents diploma, which by definition is a college preparatory diploma? 10%. No. 63, good guess. 47%. 47%, so less than 1 out of every 2 kids who graduated from high school in 1999 was earning a Regents diploma. Now, some of you New Yorkers may have come from a school such as Scarsdale, or Mamaroneck, or Brighton outside of Rochester, okay? And if you look back, the percentage of Regents diploma for those schools is actually 0%. Okay, the argument in those schools is their local curriculum was much more rigorous than the state-required curriculum, and so they didn't participate in this. But those are the exception. For most every other school, the other 99% of the schools in the state, you had this differentiation, okay, between a Regents diploma and a non-Regents diploma. Now, why is that important? Well, when you looked at who were those folks earning a Regents diploma, okay, what did they look like? What skin color did they have? What background did they have? Meaning they come from a wealthy family, a poor family, a school with high property values, or a school with low property values. Because if you take my course, or other courses on campus, you'll find out that property values have a lot to do with the resources that are expended locally on schools. All right? So we have this state making a decision that every single kid doesn't have to go to college, but has to have this college preparatory program. And so if you're going to go through a high school in New York State and graduate, the expectation is that you will be able to go to college if you so choose. Okay? This is a policy that was under great duress. There's a lot of controversy. Okay, we went out and spoke to teachers, we went out and spoke to administrators, guidance counselors, parents, and part of this research work we did back in 2000, 2001, trying to answer the basic question, how in the world are schools doing this? Because this very question, okay, is all about the achievement gap. New York State argued, the Board of Regents, which is our State Board of Education, argued there are too many kids who aren't wealthy and white, who are graduating from high school, and they don't have the qualifications to go on to college. And the state said, we need to fix that. So we're going to raise these standards across the board. And so these teachers that we were talking to said, some said, not with $1 million in a million years can we get these kids to graduate. No way, not to these standards. And others said, absolutely, we'll work hard, we'll get there. But a lot of teachers said, no way, not going to happen. Okay? So it sets up this whole notion of who's expecting what of whom. Okay? And what is that based on? Coming from the other side of the tracks? Because your skin is darker? Because you're a girl versus a boy? And we've been through this with the gender issue years ago with math. If you're a good math student and you have to be a girl in the 1970s, not that long ago, I was in school in the 1970s, okay? Engineering, you said, I want to be an engineer? No. We had a lot of pressure away from doing that. Girls can't do that. We've made a lot of progress with that. We need to make the same kind of progress along lines of social class and racial lines and so forth. Okay, so there's a state making a commitment, and the state ever since has been struggling to meet that goal. Okay? And what has become very apparent now, a decade after this decision was made, is we have these unbelievably low graduation rates. Okay? They weren't terribly high before, and they changed the metric over the last decade as well. So you get two things changing at once. And so now we have these incredibly disparate graduation rates. Some districts, graduation rate is 90, 95%. Some districts, graduation rate, 55%. Okay? Not surprisingly, the districts with 55% graduation rate, or 48%, or 52%, are typically poor, serving a poor population, and typically a minority population. Not always, but typically, on average across the state. Okay? So there's a statewide effort that many people thought was unfair. This is unfair to hold these false expectations, these high expectations for these kids. And I'm thinking, when I heard this, I said, wow, that puts a lot of pressure on these schools to educate all the kids. Okay? Similarly controversial is No Child Left Behind. Who's heard of No Child Left Behind?